Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Flip-Flop Family podcast. I hope you're having an amazing day. I'm Xylene.
And I am Benjamin.
And we are very much looking forward to today's podcast because it's been a subject that has been a bit of a sore subject, actually. I went to go and watch Bridget Jones last night, the new one, Mad About the Boy. Really exciting because Emiliana was a featured child in it. And I won't give away too much because I know you're not really into Bridget Jones, are you?
So I've never really watched any of them. I've seen bits here and there on the TV or whatever, but I've never really been like kind of captivated by any of the scenes I've seen because it's just not my kind of movie. But
understandable.
I'm happy to sit down one day with you and just watch them all. But
especially because your daughter's in it.
It's
so,
not well that especially, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down like the timings of when Minnie's in it so that you can see it. But
Perfect.
When I said to Ben, let's go and watch Bridget Jones, he looked at me and he was like, babe, I think that's a you and your girls thing or you and your sister thing, which is so we had a girly night and we went to watch it and it was really nice. And I don't want to give too much away in case you haven't watched it yet. But I'm sure you would know that she is actually a widow. Bridget's a widow in it. And it really got me thinking because she went through a lot of struggles with parenting, as you can imagine, like if you lost your other half and then having to bring up two kids alone. And I feel like I've had struggles, or we both probably have had struggles with parenting over the years, having two children, one a girl, one boy, and two very different personalities.
Oh, yep, definitely, yeah.
And I just think to myself, like, there's no rule book. It's not. There's been. I think a lot of the time it's been easy, especially when they were younger. I think we bossed the baby years.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a challenge for everyone, really. But I feel like you have to look at the personality of the child too as well. I feel like both of them are quite different. So I feel like the way that we parent them is very, very different. I think obviously there's that 3-year gap that can be quite a difference when they get quite older.
Yeah.
Like I feel now, like Emiliana now, she's going to be 13 and Zach is like 9, going to be 10. So that gap is quite big in like, kind of terms of what they like to do.
Yeah.
Before they would just go and play together and have fun and stuff. But I think because that gap now is kind of, she's entering that teenage year, it's becoming a bit different. I feel like their interests might not be the same anymore. And I feel like that's going to be quite sad to see because it's been so nice to watch them like play together and to have fun over the years.
And I think like it's interesting because being a parent, it's like you have to have parent part 1, parent part 2, parent part 3. As children grow, I feel like as parents, we've had to evolve. And you're like such a fun parent. So I think when they were little, like really little, and you'd make up these really cool songs and cool stories, like you are the fun guy. Like you still wrestle with Emiliana and Zach now.
Yeah.
And I was always like the more kind of like I think I'd had fun with them, but I was definitely the more stricter one. But I think as the kids have got older, you've now become the strict one as well.
Yeah, I think there comes a time where you can't always play, and I've been quite a playful dad over the years, but I feel like there comes a point where you have to really teach them, discipline. And when they get older, they become a little bit more cheekier. So you have to keep them in check. And it is quite hard when they get a bit older. Like Emiliana now is going to be 13 and she has her ways of doing things. And if I feel like she's not doing it the right way, I tend to try to guide her the right way, but then she still has her way, so I have to respect that.
Yeah.
But it gets harder the older that they get, and it's a fun job being a parent.
Of course,
I love it, but it obviously brings all the challenges as well.
Yeah, and they talk about obviously your parents giving you unconditional love. Hopefully, your partner's giving you unconditional love, but if I'm, I like to think that both of us are very transparent and very real on these podcasts. Yeah. And unconditional love is sometimes a bit hard. Like I love my children. I really do unconditionally. And I feel like especially when we're going through a phase where they're not really listening or having to kind of really both put on our discipline hats, it's like, it can almost seem like we don't have unconditional love because we're on them all the time. Like, do this. But it's like, how do you not still love your child? Of course you love them, but how do you still, for me, love is like the fun and all that, but it's like, it's so hard. You can't be both parent. You can't be two. You can't be disciplining them and also be like really fun and, like saying yes to everything when you're trying to discipline them. And I find that really hard, like almost taking away privileges I think that's kind of our method of parenting. And it'd be really interesting to know how other people parent. Because some people, like when there's been things that the kids have missed out on, there's been the odd parent that said to me, "Oh God, you're quite strict." But is that strict?
I don't know. I think that different people have a different method in terms of parenting. So you just have to find the balance that works for you. What works for us is trying to take away the privileges, and even then, it doesn't actually work as well. Sometimes they're like, "I don't care." Da, 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 da. Yeah, I think every child is different, and you just need to try to work out what works for you as a parent, and also what works for the child as well. It's about the child and how they learn. Yeah, it is hard to be that fun parent, but also to be that parent that's quite disciplined in getting the best out of them. But as long as they understand that when they get disciplined, it's coming from a place of love, that
Yeah.
that as a parent you're trying to teach them and support them, then they should be cool with it. But
Yeah.
it's hard to get that balance right. It really is.
I just feel like these years are quite challenging. Like Emiliano's, like you said, nearly 13, Zach's nearly 10. I feel like they're quite challenging because as children get older, they're with you less of the time, actually. And so the influence is more outside than it
Yeah,
is inside,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And living in the Western world, there are so many demands placed on children that they just have so much pressure, but that also increase the pressure on parents. Like for us, we're like, okay, they need to get certain levels in certain subjects. They need to, I know obviously fitness is really important to you, which is important to me too, but making sure that they are getting enough exercise, making sure they're well-rounded, making sure they're playing a musical instrument. Like there's so many, and then we're both of two faiths as well, so that they have two communities to be involved with. Like, where is the time to just chill and do nothing with your children?
But that's life, I'm afraid. It's what you chose. It's life. It is hard to find the time. It is. That's why you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to discipline them, because you're like, we're wasting time here when we could be having fun.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard when like something big happens and you're like, why would you do that for when we could have spent the whole evening having fun?
Yeah.
But they have to learn, and that's just life. And I feel like they have to go through this because, no kids are going to be perfect.
No,
They have to learn.
no.
And you have to be the parent to try and teach them,
But
and
at what
show them
point
the
do
way.
they learn? At the 100th time getting it wrong? At the
No,
150th time?
Every kid's different.
I'm losing the will to
I know,
live.
it's hard. It's hard being a parent. It's a very privileged job, but it's a very hard job.
Why
And
do you
have to-
think, Benjamin, our house looks like a jungle? Because it's much easier for me to parent plants than it is to parent children.
Yeah, I was wondering why on earth you bought so many plants in this house. It's such a lovely house, and it literally looks like a jungle. It really does.
Oh, but being a plant parent is a beautiful thing. They don't talk back to you. As long as you nurture them and water them on the right time, they
Yeah,
grow.
This is true. This is true.
But what I was really thinking about is I wanted to, well, we both wanted to get married in church. Obviously, you're Catholic, I'm not, but as a child, you kind of, maybe a child in the West, you always grow up of having a white wedding and a nice dress and walking down the aisle. And, to my luck, I, stumbled across a nice Catholic boy. And, we got that opportunity to get married in church. And it was a bit of a surprise to me. I think you came along and was like, oh, babe, so I've met with the priest, and he said, that we can get married in church, but we've got to do these courses. And I was like, what do you mean? What course? And he's like, oh, we've got to meet with Father, and it's like 6 weeks they go through all different things. And I was very open as I am now, I guess, to everything. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go. So off we went and did this course, and I actually thought it was really good. The things they talk about, because everybody thinks about the wedding, don't they? Oh, the wedding, what it's going to look like, what food, the venue.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people think about the marriage, like what goes into a marriage. What is your partner like now? How are they going to be? So we did this whole thing, didn't we, to get married? And then when we wanted to buy a house, what do we have to do? We had to get affordability. We had to have, make sure we had enough money. We had to get insurance. You want to get a dog, don't you?
Well, yes, I do. I think because we've talked about having a third child for a long time, and I can't see that happening at the moment, which is fine because we're getting older. I'm in my 40s, you're in your 40s, and I guess life is quite easy in terms of, with the kids now, not kind of easy, but it's a different kind of easy now because the kids are older. They're 9 and 12.
Yeah.
They can wake up on their own now and
Yeah,
make their
that
own
side's
breakfast.
easy.
But yeah, not the other side. But easy in terms of not having to wake up in the night time and do
nighttime.
night
Yeah.
feeds
Yeah.
and this and that. and a baby would throw that in the mix. But yeah, a dog would be a lot easier. So I'd love to have a dog at the moment.
Yeah,
But,
and so you've been looking into getting a dog,
Yeah.
and to get a dog, again, you've got to prove that you've got a loving home for it to come into, like the environment is right, that for the pet, that the ages of the, like, you know, every like animal, some of them are okay with kids, some of them aren't, some prefer younger
Yeah.
kids, some prefer, there's like this whole
it's
thing.
mad. So I went onto the RSPCA website to try and find out if we could get a dog.
Yeah.
There's a particular dog that I'm looking for, and I was shocked. I had to fill out these forms. They took about, it was a good 45 minutes, and there was about 6 or 7 different forms, and they were asking loads of stuff like how big is your house and how many kids have you got, what's the age of your kids, what do you do for work, who's at home, which I think is obviously fair because they don't want to just give a dog to any old person, right? So you have to fit a criteria. But I was just shocked. I thought if you're going to open your home up to a dog, they'd be like, yeah, take it. But there is a good old, criteria and a lot of stuff to fill out that I think is very good, actually.
It is, but I think you've really kind of shown off my point there. So we've talked about the cost to get married, the affordability, you've got to have a job, you've got to have enough income to buy a house, the plethora of forms you just had to fill in, the criteria you had to meet in order to get a dog. Do you want to tell me what you did to have a child? Any forms? Any courses?
No.
Any? No.
Nothing at all.
Isn't that just madness?
it is
Like
pretty
as
crazy,
parents, we had to do we just thought to ourselves, and we were very blessed that we conceived a child very quickly.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually have to do anything. Like we didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to learn how to be a parent. What is the best way to ensure that you enrich your child and make sure they grow in a loving? Isn't that just crazy?
It is crazy, yeah, it is. But I don't know how you would get around that. How would you get around that? Would there be a course for young parents that they have to attend?
Yeah, because there are courses you can go on,
There
which I went
probably-
on
But
one.
that'd probably be like a voluntary
Yeah.
thing where you just go yourself.
Yeah.
But, in society, the people that probably should go on those kind of courses probably won't go on those courses. And that's the problem, right?
Yeah, because we did the NCT thing at Royal Free Hospital, me and you, and I've got loads of like mummy friends and groups, and I went to like my GP, but there's nothing essential. Like for all those other things that we talked about, those things were essential.
Yeah.
And I just think it's crazy that there are so many parents out there who are just trying their best. We're all just trying our best, aren't we? We're just trying our best out there to bring up, lovely, well-rounded, generous, thoughtful, kind children. And it's just not always easy. And when I think about how we parent, I think as with most people, you probably think of how did my parents parent? How did they parent me? What worked for me? What didn't work for me? And then we try and do that, don't we, with our own children? Or if your parents didn't do a good job, you try to do the complete opposite.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But we're in just completely different times. I feel like we're just out of our depths. And I think tech has got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah. I think we're doing a pretty good job in terms of trying to raise our kids. I think it's a hard job, especially with like the pressure of social media, the pressures of tech. It's a hard job, and I feel like we are doing an okay job. But definitely, I think that there should be some kind of information given to like young parents about how to raise kids to give them the best benefits, because it's very, very difficult. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, I think, with the day and age of tech and the way that it's changing, it's just so hard because kids I feel like the more tech they're on, the more like, I want to use the word aggy, but that's not really the right word to use, but the more like
upset
their head, I feel like their brains get like busy, because they're just like, they want to use a phone or they want to game or they want to and we're really like, we use something called Family Link for Android. So we can limit the amount of time Emiliana uses on her phone, but she finds ways around it.
Yeah, she does. But I think with the phones, I think they give you that kind of instant gratification and that instant hit of happiness and fun, that when you tell them that they can't go on their phones, they're like, oh, and they get upset because real life is not going to be fun. They've got to go and, do their homework or clean their room.
Yeah.
So for them, they get upset, but they need to understand that this is real life. This is what life is about. You have to like not be on your phone all the time, and you need to make time for your homework and your room and your chores and everything else. And I guess real life for kids nowadays is just boring.
It's slow,
But
isn't it? It's slow paced compared to the tech world. Tech world's quick, quick, quick.
yeah, it's quick. Let's go play a game together. And my friends are all online and they're chatting and they're having fun. But you have to be able to distinguish between reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, social media is just fake.
It's true. I always say to Emiliana, if she ever comes home and has a moan about school or friends or anything, I'm just like, just say the words, Emiliana. Me and Daddy, our bags are already at the door. We're ready to go anytime. We'll go to Bali or you know what? We went traveling around the world for a year with the kids, and we homeschooled them, and it was the best school of life we could have ever given them. I feel, they were island kids, weren't they?
Yeah.
When I think of them and I picture them, Emiliana's got, sand on her arms and her hair's like boho, and that was the life, babe.
And they didn't have any pressures of anything. It was just like literally wake up in the morning, go down for breakfast or whatever, or we'd make breakfast and then just go down for a nice walk on the beach or go and play in the sand or just do like simple things.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the time the weather was really nice too as well. So I think the weather in this country adds to a lot of people's misery almost. I feel like it does a lot. And if the weather was nice here, we'd be outside a lot more. But I feel like because the weather's so like crap and it's like grey all the time, you don't really want to go in your garden, do you?
No, it's true.
And like in the summer we have so much fun because we're in the garden playing all the time. We're having a lot of fun, and I think that really adds, to it. But being away, I felt like the weather was lovely, so we enjoyed just being outside, and the kids were like carefree, running around.
Yeah. And there are those life skills that I think obviously we did learn on the journey. We actually went to a school called The Life School in a little place in Guatemala. I think it was it in Antigua? Was it in Guatemala? I can't remember now where we went to. And we went to
It's the
life.
capital of Guatemala, right?
No, but it wasn't Antigua. It was somewhere in Guatemala. We went to, do you remember? And the kids went to life school.
Was it with that couple that we met?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Airbnb
We ended up
owners?
renting this Airbnb, and the guy was actually English, and he had come out to Guatemala like 20 years ago, and ended up marrying a Guatemalan. And now they have this this property, and they Airbnb it, and they opened, and his wife opened. Actually, was she Guatemalan or was she English actually as well?
I think she was actually English.
Yeah,
as
sorry,
well.
they both, and then they opened up the life school
Yeah.
in Guatemala, and it was just so chill. And their daughter was the same age as Emiliana, and the wife also did like a gymnastics session, and Minnie was like on the ribbons and the ropes, and Zach was doing roly polies, and the life was so simple. And you're definitely right though. In the UK, like when the sun's shining, I don't think there's as much of a desire to be on the tech because you're outdoors and you're enjoying the fresh air. Yeah. And although we do enjoy the fresh air in the winter, it's just a bit more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, if the weather was nice a lot more, then we'd be out a lot more, and that would eliminate how much time the kids get on their games, on their phones, and all that tech stuff. And I feel like we just need better weather in the UK.
We do, and I also feel like as parents, because the Western sort of national curriculum I feel like it's quite dated. And so where we're trying like our best to push them and make sure they're excelling in like the core subjects and stuff, I just think there's so much missing. Like we talked about, didn't we? Like you were doing like a kind of practical after school club or holiday club because you've got so many skills that you could teach kids that they just don't know about.
Yeah, I think kids need to learn how to do like the basic things inside a house, like to wire a plug, to change a bulb.
What, the pressure on the boiler? I feel like people call you for that all the time.
Like boiler pressure, just like basic things that you can do yourself. You don't have to call a builder out.
Put a shelf up, put a picture on the wall.
And it's such basic things that I don't get why there's not a lesson in school here about how to teach kids about these things. It's so important.
Yeah.
And it's part of life. Otherwise, if you can't do these things, you have to call someone out. They're going to come, they're going to, charge you an arm and a leg. It's just going to be a headache.
Even in maths, though, I feel like that you're not learning the basic stuff of like, I feel like there's a lot of adults out there who probably don't fully understand their mortgage statements, and, because it takes time, although you might have those core maths skills that you learn, I feel like they need to teach you some things in a practical scenario, like understanding your electricity bills, your utility bills, like it's just, I feel like you come out of school and if you just do school and don't do anything else, lacking a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like you lack a lot, but you learn a lot of stuff in school that you don't use outside. So your lacking in some departments, and you know knowledge about stuff that you're never going to use anyway. So it's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching you stuff like Pythagoras, theorem, why not teach you stuff that's actually going to help you
Yeah.
outside?
Yeah.
And unless you're going to be a mathematician, it might be a different thing.
This is it.
But if you're not, you need to be learning about everyday things like how like a credit card's going to work and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
And the interest payments
the
and
interest,
yeah.
the APRs, and all that thing. People don't really take time to learn about these things,
Exactly.
and then they get credit cards, get in like debt, and then they're stuck.
That's it.
It's not a good lesson.
I think that's something for you, babe. You need to open Benjamin's School of Life. I like the sound of that. Benjamin's School of Life. Look at that. We've got business ideas and everything. So how has your week been going? What tune have you been listening to? What's been ringing in your ears this week? I always do like to know.
So it's funny you should say that. I actually had a tune that you had recommended on your last podcast that my dad loved, which was a song called Angels and Alcohol. So at work for the past couple of days, I've had that on replay and repeat even.
And there was another one that I recommended on a previous podcast, and Zach came in singing it.
What was that?
Oh, misery. Zach was singing
Shame
it.
and Scandal by Madness.
And he started explaining that to me. I'm like, Zach, I understand the lyrics. He's like, no, mum, but he's like, he's not his father's father. I'm like, yeah, I know that's not his father, but he was so proud of himself explaining it to me. So you've just been listening to the tunes that I've been recommending.
So one of them has been the one that you recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any others? Because I always like to listen to the ones that you recommend. Like I was listening to Ray the other day.
Yeah, Ray's wicked. No, like nothing new, really, just the same old stuff, really. Nothing that like sticks out. I've been listening to like a lot of the Eagles actually recently. Stuff because like my dad loved all that stuff. So when you start listening to that Angels and Alcohol, then I thought, yeah, let me try a bit of the Eagles too as well. So it's been a bit of a daddy theme this week.
Yeah, I think because of my Grief and Gingerbread podcast.
Yeah,
on,
that's highlighted
Thursday,
a few things.
That's probably kicked your kind of your thought process into that mode.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I always like to know what you're reading. Still not finished that Amino book. We need to pass it on to me. Amino.
Atomic Habits.
Atomic. Why does it say Amino?
That's my bet. So I read different things during the day. So during the day, I read something different to what I'm going to be reading at nighttime. So yeah, nighttime was Atomic Habits, and then I started because I've never really read the Chronicles of Narnia. So I've watched the movies but never read the books, and
Magical.
I've always said let me go back and read the book. So I've started reading the first installment of the 7-book series.
Amazing.
So the first book of the Chronicles of Narnia is called The Magician's Nephew. So I've started reading.
I've not read that either.
Yeah, I've started reading that. I'm kind of not halfway through, about 35% through, and it's it's really good. So I've started that really. So.
Lovely. And is anything that you've cooked this week that is standing out? Oh no, you were very sweet. So Emiliana was on a shoot. She did a shoot for an Ofcom commercial on Thursday, and I'm always a bit worse for wear. Because if I ever get picked up in a taxi, oh my God, these people don't know how to drive. Why do they love the brake pedal, babe? Why?
I can't deal with it.
And so I always come back a bit worse for wear. And Ben and Zach were very sweet. They were waiting at the door when me and Emiliana turned up. Zach had a candle in his hand. He was doing some sort of blessing on us. And Ben had a lovely hot cup of tea. This boy knows me too well. And then the doorbell rang, and shortly after a Chinese arrived. But we can't say that the Chinese was the best meal of the week. So I'm going to have a quick look at our Flip Flop Family Kitchen Instagram page to see what we cooked this week that I think was a really good thing, and so that you can check it out. I think for me, actually, it has to be that quick mince quesadilla and chips that I did. This was super quick. It was like Friday night. We kind of wanted something a bit cheaty, but we didn't want to be too unhealthy. And it was basically like kind of like a minced beef recipe that you cook, and then you put it in a tortilla with cheese, fold it over. But then the difference in that was that you bake it. So we had a crispy shell, didn't we? It was delicious actually, and we had some chilies in there. Check it out on the Flip Flop Family Kitchen if you need some inspiration for your weeknight dinners. Thank you so much for listening to the Flip Flop Family podcast. Remember that we release 2 episodes every single week, and we're on Spotify, all of the streaming platforms, as well as YouTube. We would love for you to comment and let us know what you think. If you have anything to say, definitely on parenting. We'd love some parenting tips, wouldn't we, babe?
100%.
You're never going to be a
Let us
perfect
know.
parent. So do comment and let us know. And if you like the content that you're hearing, please share with your friends. Even if you share with 1 or 2 people and they enjoy our content too, that would make us very happy. We hope you have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.